Let me show you the front page of tomorrow's Sun newspaper. Look at that, everybody. The Sun have come out and declared their support, essentially, for the Labour Party. They're saying it's time for a new manager, and they don't mean that you need to sack Southgate. Although a lot of people would probably agree with that latter sentiment, but I won't get into that. That's quite interesting. I mean, this endorsement from the Sun, I don't imagine for a second it holds the kind of might that it once did. But still, it's quite significant, no?
Well, the Sun, used to say it was the Sun what won it.
Yeah.
And I think it is significant. I think in some respects that front page sums up the mood in the country. I don't think there is mass public enthusiasm for Keir Starmer and the Labour Party on any of the data that we see in the polling. Starmer's not particularly popular. People are not won over by Labour's case, but there is an enormous appetite for change. Just get somebody else in there. If you look at some of the... there's a question, Michelle, that pollsters often say carries more power than anything related to policy and leader. And it's what we'd call today a vibes-based question. And it's simply this. Is it time for a change? Is it time for a change in Westminster? And if you ask voters that question today...
I was going to say no.
75%, 80% say, yeah, it's time for a change. And I think that's where you see the newspapers falling into line and saying, actually, if they want to stay on the right side of that, the zeitgeist in the country, then an implicit nod to Labour, even if they're not won over by Labour's economics, by Labour's immigration plans. I know for a fact I'm not won over by that, but that's why I suspect they've done that.
What do you think of that endorsement, Aaron? It's
embarrassing. It's embarrassing for Rupert Murdoch. It's embarrassing for the Sun newspaper. This really, to me, is so emblematic of how irrelevant the Sun has become. They're following in the slipstream of the Financial Times and the Economist, which, of course, for Labour is what really matters, because you don't want to enter number 10 and then have a run on the pound, have the markets come after you. That's what would have mattered to Labour. This is very much not even second place. It's nowhere near. The Sun is doing this because their readers are going to vote for Labour. They're catching up with their readers rather than, and I think that's right, what you sort of alluded to there, they're catching up with their readers rather than guiding them in a particular direction.
Well, it's interesting you say that, because I looked at a tweet from Kelvin Mackenzie, who comes on the show occasionally. He is, of course, the former editor of the Sun newspaper. He thinks that actually many readers of the Sun actually are going to be going reform. And
I'm sure many will.
And that there's a sentiment, actually, a consideration of should we or shouldn't we come out and back reform, but perhaps that there was commercial decisions then taken, that if they did do that, then the advertisers would distance themselves from the Sun newspaper, potentially.
Well, reform's obviously been on the rise in the last month, but prior to that, Labour have really been leading amongst Sun readers for quite a while. And what I would say is that's absolutely true. Reform will certainly be a very strong second, if not, up there with Labour. But if you look at the things that they have criticised with regards to Rishi Sunak, the Tories allowed a civil service blob. Labour are very much a party that believe in the civil service. Activist quangos. Keir Starmer's going to create more quangos. Human rights lawyers. Keir Starmer is a former human rights lawyer. So it seems to me that they felt they had no choice. They want to remain relevant. And I think you're right. They would have backed reform. But the point is, Farage, best case scenario, gets half a dozen seats. They will look less relevant than they want to be. They have always been the bull in the china shop. That's simply no longer true, right? In an age of social media, you guys are here. People get their news from many, many places, not just print daily newspapers. I think it really is a testament to how irrelevant the Sun has been. They're still a player, they still shape public opinion, but nothing like the early 1990s.
If I just briefly come in, and I put cards on the table, I do write for the Sun, so, but having said that, there's a key demographic that matters here, and that's what we call the C2 skilled working class, white van man. Who still looks to the Sun for sport, bit of politics, bit of fun, bit of entertainment. That demographic has swung behind Labour too, and that's the Brexit demographic, the workington man, the patriotic, but also economically really hacked off with the system. And I think that's the demographic that really matters there. That's what they're really trying to get behind.